Welcome to the Wrecking Yard. I'm Jerry Wayne Longmire, and y'all, or presumably still y'all, all are welcome here in the Church of Internal Combustion. We just ask that you show up with an open heart. There's a balmy Saturday here, April Saturday. We're about 85 degrees out here in the shop. It's not that bad outside, it's just a little warmer in there. It's a nice Saturday, man. I haven't really done much today. Probably should have, but I decided to have some drinks last night and slept in. Enjoyed it. It was quite nice. I'm not a big martini person, but I made myself an espresso martini like I had in a restaurant last week and enjoyed the hell out of it. About maybe just one or two of those, because after that caffeine gets in you. You start getting a little wiggy. I am happy to be here before you guys, though. A good time was had, and didn't wake up feeling too bad either, because since I haven't been drinking, my tolerance is so low. Just a couple of them gets me where I need to go nowadays. Nights I don't have to drink half a fifth of Evan Williams to enjoy myself. Got some cooking to do on the grill later. I got some steaks in there laid out. Gonna burn down over some charcoal. It's gonna be a good time. Before we get too deep off into it, we got even a newer sponsor this week. So we have sponsors are coming in. We have a new premium sponsor this week with Jake's Quality Repair LLC up in Marshfield, Wisconsin. Jake's is your go-to family-owned semi-truck and trailer repair shop that offers roadside service calls for the trucker in need. You got a blowout? Call Jake's. Trailer damage? Call Jake's. Driving a Volvo? Call Jake's. It's still going to be a Volvo, but he can fix the other stuff. Need a career change? Call Jake's. He also sells and services snowplows. He can have you out in these streets pushing that white frozen gold in no time, son. They also offer all manner of auto repair for all makes and sizes and custom hot rod work too. Check out his Facebook page, Jake's Quality Repair LLC, for more information. That's the only night. If you're a truck driver and you're driving through central Wisconsin, think, boy, I sure hate to have some problems here, and you're listening to this podcast, the only number you need, 715-384-6699. That's Jake's Quality Repair. Sorry. Jake's Quality Repair LLC for your central Wisconsin automotive needs. Also, don't forget to check out the Golden Beards Company. They're a 10-year-old global beard brand specializing in organic natural beard care products in Denmark. They make my absolute favorite mustache wax. I got it on right now. It's just enough to hold, but it's not overly sticky. And it keeps mine looking good even underneath hot stage lights or even out here in an 85-degree garage. And they make it all natural crap, and I just like not putting extra stuff on my face, But you can check them out at goldenbeards.com. That's goldenbeards.com. All right. Got our sponsors taken care of. Let's thumb our way through the rest of this. Well, the internet's a wild place, man. I say it all the time. It's part of my job is to be on social media. And sometimes it's one of the odd things about the internet to me is the most random things can get people upset. It's wild to find out what other people are worried about. I posted, some of you guys know, if you follow me for any period of time, I'm pretty kind to the animals around here. I feed the strays. I do all kind of shit. Try to find lost dogs, new homes, and their old homes, and all kind of shit like that. Me and my wife have always done that kind of stuff. And I don't really care what anybody else's opinion is on it. I see it as a part of my belief system is being kind to animals. When I think about the whole dominion over animals thing, it's not just about a decision whether when or when not to end them, but more about a decision to help them and take care of them when you can too. I get their invasive species and all that sort of stuff, but I had some dude, I posted some picture of one of these. I actually posted a picture of a broom at the back of the Mazda, and I said that I thought it was one of the cats, and I talked to it for like 15 minutes. Didn't matter. The broom wasn't going to come to me any more than the cat was. Yeah. If you know anything about cats, you know what I'm talking about. This dude showed up on a mission, man. He was upset. Uh, Showed up right off the bat, called me a name, and said that it was my fault for having outdoor animals. And I quickly explained to him, I was like, hey, man, these animals do not belong to me. They're just passers through. This is old hood neighborhood, man. This is the hood. This is a really old historic hood. Okay. This is fucking this is an old place. Okay. Stray cats and stray dogs have been a part of this ecosystem for a long time. And I like keeping the stray cats around because they keep the rats and the mice down. And this dude got real upset at me. He said, no, sends me this. See, here's the thing about the internet is you can find an article to back up any narrow justification you want to make. And he sends me this article from the Smithsonian where it says he's hot, boy. This article from the Smithsonian. No, that's all a lie. The Smithsonian decided that cats aren't even good mousers. I was like, well, I don't think the Smithsonian talked to the hundreds and hundreds of years of ship captains and people who relied on cats in order to keep mouse and rat problems down. And oh, you're just laughing in the face of facts. Well, that's the thing about facts. You can find facts that say anything you want. They're not really facts. They're just things that you can find to justify your whatever your bias is. Any of us can do that. You can spend 15 minutes on the internet and you can find somebody who's wrote something agreeing with your whatever your bullshit you're trying to justify is. Dude was getting pretty ugly. I said, man, I'm not real concerned with how you feel about me or the situation. You're not going to change my mind about it. You're just wasting your breath, basically. I went and looked at his page, and he had a. I'm not here to out the dude, but he had a pest control service up in Wisconsin. But it wasn't really so much a pest control service as this dude was just running around and capturing animals and stuff in people's yards, and then sending them big videos about what all he did for them. And then, of course, a couple of them would thank him and this and that. But I just got I was just so surprised. Like, what a crazy thing to me. He started telling me how cats were invasive. I was like, wait, what are you talking about? They're invasive. You just said they couldn't kill rats or mice. But apparently they destroy everything else in the ecosystem, even though my yard is full of blue jays and full of cardinals and full of doves. And I've got more birds I can shake a stick at. I got crows. I got them. I got hawks that come in. We got, I don't know how many dang blasted squirrels. We got an old oak tree full of a squirrel, multi-generational little hillbilly family that live here. But cats are genocide to the ecosystem. They just wipe it out. I said, man, what are you? You're crazy, dude. Like you're literally a crazy person who has taken this weird campaign. Like finally, that's how I finally pissed him off. So he called me a couple names, and I just said, man, that's the most suburbanite, middle class, whiny ass problem I ever heard of in my life. I hope the shit you never grow up and have real problems where you have to deal where none of them involve a cat because you are going to struggle, brother. It's going to be hard for you, man. Here in the hood, cats are not a problem. Cats are part of the solution. Cats aren't the problem here, you know. Income disparity, food desert, stuff like that. Those are problems, you know. Police that don't show up except to fundraise, those are problems. Criminal element causing problems, those are problems. But none of our problems here in the hood are cats. None of the problems in this neighborhood built in the 40s are cats. I suspect none of them really are dogs either, but they get out of hand every once in a while. But dogs are a little bigger and do a little more damage to a human. So those we have to watch with a little more wary eye. But that was just like, bro, are you crap? Are you shitting me? Now I live in I don't know what kind of soft ass neighborhood you were raised in that's the biggest problem you face, but God bless you. I hope you continue to live that soft ass life. I never in my life had one problem that could be solved by getting rid of a cat. Never, never. There's never been a problem, as far as I've been an adult, it could be solved by a cat, by an invasive cat, solved by dealing with an invasive cat. That's crazy. This is the hood, bro, man. I saw damn one of these cats over here get hit by a damn Suburban. I think I may have told y'all a story. I was leaving Planet Fitness, getting on 59 on the feeder. Dude, this cat runs out of the neighborhood right in front of this Tahoe or Suburban. Boom, hits him. That cat rolled. The way that cat rolled and hopped up out from behind that Suburban that was going about 40 told me a couple things. One, that cat definitely from the hood. Two, it's not the first time that dude's been run over by a truck. He rolled and popped out under that Suburban like one life down, chalk it up to the game, player, and took off down the freeway. That's the softest shit I ever heard in my life, man. I swear. Hope your life continues to be that easy. That cats. I live in Texas, bro, where pigs with giant tusks take over neighborhoods and storm through people's fences and houses and stuff. We have bigger creatures to worry about here as far as being invasive. They get the hog population beat down, the Russian boars beat down to nothing, then maybe we can turn our attention to those dreadful, dreadful, scary fur balls of death, like the one who has been laying on my bench for 8 hours today and not done a damn thing. All right. That just surprised the shit out of me. The internet never ceases to amaze me what people take as their mantra and decide. I mean, of course, there's all the political junkies on both sides of the fence that I don't know how they live. I don't know how they breathe every day. Like you're just in a constant. I used to be very political when I was younger, and I was in a constant state of heightened alert about shit I couldn't do a damn thing about. Shit I really had no impact on either way. And all that really suffered was my life as a result of it. And I cast that to the side and have been a happier man every day because of it. And bro, I think if you take your cat focus off the cats, maybe there's a real underlying problem there you can get to the bottom of. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe the biggest problem is cats. That's funny as shit though. Been talking to you guys a little bit about the Driven to Dreams, drivendreams.org is a charity that I'm participating in this year. And it's where we have a day of giving in October. And we give and donate to food banks at various places as many little die cast toy cars as we can. They have to be in a package or a wrapper like new. And we just try to put a bunch of toy cars in the hands of kids. And I learned about this when I was on the Diecast Breakdown podcast. One of their founders started this charity, and I just think it's fantastic. And charities are so problematic these days. This just felt like an easy one that where I can't possibly be doing damage to somebody somehow by participating in this, which you always got to wonder. I think I showed y'all two of the cars already that have been picked out, and I forgot to show y'all last week, but we got some more additions that'll be going on the day of giving. We have the Max Steel Hot Wheel, right? It's pretty sharp looking, little roadster, pretty cool. I like it. It's from the Rod Squad series, and then we got the Double R Roadster. Looks like a Viper. It's from the Compact Kings. I guess it's not a Viper. It's probably something smaller. Kind of maybe it's a Miata. I don't know. Hell, I don't know what the hell it is. Double R Roadster. It's a cool looking little ride though in the convertibles. And oh, that's cool. I didn't even see this one yet. Chevy Blazer 4x4. This is from the HW Dirt series. I said like Dirt, like Joe Dirt, Joe Dirte. Don't try to church it up, Dirt. That's your Blazer 4x4, kind of an old school Blazer. That's a fun one like that. We'll add those to the shelf. I'm gonna have to find a better way to display these. Um, but if you'd like to participate or be involved in any way, feel free to write me at JWL Comedy, and my manager will get it to me, and we'll figure out a way for you to get involved with those guys. They're a good bunch of dudes. I really had a good time on their podcast. If you like other podcasts, be sure you go check out Diecast Breakdown, especially if you're into Hot Wheels and diecast cars. It's a fun conversation. I enjoy those dudes. All right, on to the meat of the section. I got a lot of notes here today. We are going to talk about one of General Motors' abject failures today, and I'm a fan of GM for the most part, but like anything else, you need to go back to the beginning to see what they were thinking. Personally, I blame Arnold Schwarzenegger for the whole Hummer series. It's important to acknowledge, though, the company that made the original Hummer for the military, the M998, the company that has built that for years, the Hummer has such a wild history in like how it came to be and the company involved. But AM General was the company that manufactured these. Uh, Off in Indiana somewhere. I can't. I got that in my notes. South Bend, Indiana, is where they manufacture them. But AM General is really crazy, man, because its roots go all the way back to like Standard Wheel Company of Terre Haute, Indiana, which is the company that expanded to include the Overland Automotive Division, then was bought by John North Willis in 1908 and renamed it Willis Overland Motors. Now we're starting getting some names everybody knows. Of course, 1941, U.S. military gives huge contract to Willis Overland Motors, produced the Willis MB, also known as the Jeep for the U.S. infantry. Much like Ford had the contract for the Navy to make the GP, which was also basically a Jeep. They were all kind of sharing the same design. Mass produced that vehicle as America's first four-wheel drive, 1/4 ton tactical utility truck. The Jeep of World War II fame. Of course, if you know anything about the history of Willis, and Kaiser Motors at some point, I think in the 50s, buys Willis Overland and changes its name to the Kaiser Willis Motor Company. And in 1963, they changed their name to the Kaiser Jeep Company. Of course, at some point, they get purchased by American Motors Corporation, AMC. It's trying to remember something here. I'm going to forget it. No, I guess that's not what I was thinking. Then in the 60s, they built that plant in South Bend, Indiana, which included also Studebaker's General Products Division, along with substantial defense contracts. And back then, Studebaker also had military contracts, and Studebaker built all kind of stuff. Oh, they bought that plant from Studebaker too. I did not know that. Okay. So, I mean, everybody knows kind of the history of AMC. AMC fell apart under poor management at some point, and they were kind of pushed down by the big three. But AMC had bought Jeep from Kaiser when Kaiser got out of the auto business. And in the 70s, AMC made the General Products Division of Jeep. This is the most incestuous, weird timeline of a vehicle ever. In the 70s, AMC makes a General Products Division of Jeep, which produces military trucks as well as contract non-commercial vehicles, a wholly owned subsidiary, and renamed it the AM General Corporation. Of course, in the 80s, AMC is falling apart, ceases to function as an independent automaker because Renault comes in and buys a controlling interest. But they had to put a pause on the sale so that AM General could be sold off because there's rules, U.S. government regulations at that time forbade ownership of defense contractors by foreign governments. Renault was partially owned by the French government. So then the LTV Corporation comes in and buys General, keeps it as a wholly owned subsidiary. Uh, in fact, their headquarters ends up in South Bend, Indiana. Then in the early 90s, AM General sold again to another group of investors, Ringo Group, which later on, 2002, converts it to a limited liability company called Hummer Brand. But they wanted to, there was talk of making the HMMWV, bringing it to the civilian market like in the 80s. Like there was some talk about it, and then nobody kind of got on board with it. And so nothing went anywhere with it. But in 1990, think it's like 92 or 93, Arnold Schwarzenegger is filming the movie Kindergarten Cop in Oregon, and he sees a convoy of military equipment being transported somewhere, and he sees the Hummers, and he falls in love with the Hummer. And Arnold Schwarzenegger goes on this whole ass campaign lobbying for there to be a civilian Hummer brought to the market because he wants one, by God. You know, in fact, when the H1, before it wasn't called the H1 at the beginning, it was just a Hummer. When it was first released as a civilian vehicle, Arnold Schwarzenegger bought the very first two that ever rolled off the lot. I believe that's correct. And yeah, yeah, he bought the first two off the lot, and I think he used to give them away in his competition every year. I think that was like first prize was you got that H1 Hummer as well, or I know he did it at least a couple of years. H1s was basically a Hummer with air conditioner. I mean, they had some changes, but still diesel, still, but they added air conditioning, glossy paint. GM was sued when they designed the H2. GM was sued. This is the funniest shit to me. GM gets sued by Chrysler, Daimler Chrysler, owners of the Jeep brand, you know, invented by the company Hummer came from. They sued them because they said that Hummer's 7-slot grill looked too similar to a Jeep. And of course, the lawsuit got thrown out of court because GM was like, well, we were partnered with the company that invented that vehicle. That's why they look kind of similar. Of course, GM did the same thing. They turned around and sued Avanti Motor Corporation because it introduced the Studebaker XUV in 2002. And basically, GM said Avanti infringed on the Hummer looks by planning a vehicle closely resembled the Hummer. It was like, I don't know. That's like full circle because the Studebaker General Products Division was the original. They had all the military contract. Like it's just the craziest shit to me. Like, did none of y'all bother to look up any of these companies you had bought history before you decided to get your lawyers and go to court? You look like a bunch of morons. Like it's wild. And the Hummer was pretty much being released as a civilian vehicle mainly because Arnold campaigned for it so far. But the original, what they call the H1 now, it wasn't too far off of an M9988. It was still a very, very similar vehicle. It's important to note that the H2 had about as much in common genetically with the H1 as I do with Mary Lou Retton. The H2, the H2 is it's the automotive equivalent of that Human Caterpillar movie. It had like a 3/4 ton front end part of its frame off of a like a GM 820 chassis, like a Tahoe, and then the rear part of the frame was GMT 800 half ton truck. You know, with an asthmatic 6 liter and a 4L Slippy. You know, it was nothing like a Hummer. It was just this big boxy stupid body put on this god awful creation and mixture of these other two vehicles. Uh, Abject failure for General Motors. They barely sold 150,000 units worldwide in nearly a decade. When the oil prices got so out of hand, they had to offer such big rebate. They basically gave the last 1,500 away to rental companies because they had to offer so many rebates to make people even want to buy on any of them. Now, I'll be honest with you, I didn't know any of this when my friend Kathy told me she bought a Hummer. I also didn't know that she was confusing an H2 with a Hummer. Kathy was a man. Kathy was like, I'm not trying to offend anybody, but Kathy was like a country ass Texas lesbian. Like our lesbians down here. I don't know what kind y'all got in your town. Maybe you got the tough ones too, but that's my buddy Will Loden's jokes. Our lesbians can beat up your lesbians, and some of your men. They're tough, but they're country as shit. Some of them down here, and and she was from a town called Huffman, Texas, which is it's like northeast of Houston. It's going into East Texas. It's like it's not in deep East Texas, but it's close enough that you probably need to check for ticks. And I mean, it's pretty damn. Even in this day and age, folks in Huffman still burn their trash in the ditch if you let them. Kathy was tough, boy. She was dating a gal that I had history with going back to middle school, and I was still close friends with at the time, something like that. Well, what was weird was when this friend of mine became gay for a while, we all of a sudden had all these redneck lesbian friends that hung around, and we would hang around with them. And they were a lot of fun. I'm going to be honest with you. Life in the city was sometimes weird for me because I couldn't find people like where I was from in East Texas. The Cowboys here are a little too prissy for me, and a lot of it's for show. And I'm just speaking about here in town. And then like the cowboys up in the woodlands, they all have money. They're a different breed. That's not my type of people that I rolled with. And then just your regular run of the mill white boys in the city were either just derelicts or just soft. Just soft as grilled cheese. Just they weren't my type of folks, so they were just into a whole different thing than I was. And I liked hanging out with these redneck lesbians. One, they always knew where to go find girls, and you support a pretty good chance in some of them bars we hung out in if you look like me, because they couldn't tell the difference about half the time until it's too late. No, that's ridiculous. But still, it was a good time, man. They were in the same. They liked country music. They liked dancing and singing, and drinking some cold beer, and raising a little hell. And half of them had dirt track cars and liked hanging out in the sticks and going fishing, like doing all the shit I did. So it was a good time. I had a good time hanging out with that group of people. Man, we there was a couple bars that we used to go to. There was this place. I got in a fist fight like with this old gal. Look, man, there was this bar in Houston called Chances, and it was a lot of redneck and inner city. A lot tough ladies there. A lot of tough ladies there. And it is one of those places where you play by their rules, you're fine. You don't get too much problem. Every once in a while, there's going to be a problem though. One night, I was in the bathroom taking a leak and was a little drunk, and this big old gal come in there. Man, she had leather on from head to toe, spiked hair. I was hanging out with Kathy and her friends, and she said something rude to me. I said something back, and she kind of got up in my face and puffed up her chest. And she's a big old gal. She's my size, but more girth for sure. And I was like, I said something stupid. I said, man, I ain't gonna hit a girl. And she reached back and cold cocked me right in the mouth. I mean, just bow. Just that that old joke about everybody's got a plan till they get hit in the face. I thought I had a plan to walk out of that bathroom until I got punched in the face. And I didn't even think about it. I come back and whopped her right back, and we had us little tussle. Some other people broke it up. I was giving as good as I was getting, but I don't think either one of us was winning. And I wasn't sure how much stamina I had to hold out for the fight. I don't consider that hitting the girl because she hit like a big old man. That gal, whoo, she had some fistus on her. Chances was a rough joint. I mean, there's some brawls out in the parking lot, and now I'm gonna say this, and it's probably offensive, but nobody fights dirtier than women, man. I worked at a women's prison for a little while, and I can tell you that I will stand by that, and I will have this argument with anybody who wants to have it. Girls are vicious when they fight. It's a different thing. There's no rules. There's no honor. There's hurt the other person. If you gotta go, you've seen the YouTube videos. Go get a shovel, whatever. It's a different mentality. I think a lot of times as young men, we're taught to have a little, you know, little honor amongst fisticuffs, But there seems to be none of that guidance over there. It's crazy, man. They had this other bar I used to go to. It's called Rainbow Ranch or something like that. It was up in Montgomery County. It was out in the sticks. Rainbow Ranch is a lot of the same gals, but they did karaoke. You could also hear 30 of the worst Stevie Nicks and Sheryl Crow covers you ever heard in your life in one night. It's fine. I don't mind a bad Stevie Nicks or Sheryl Crow cover. I don't know about that many of them at once, but it is what it is. Kathy was tough, man. I liked Kathy. We didn't always get along. We fussed and argued back and forth. And truth be known, I still had some feelings involving this gal she was dating, and it was a complicated, messy situation. But she was a working damn lady too, man. Me and this girl, we did some construction work together. We worked on stuff on their house together. She would get right in there with you with the tools and put wrench to socket and go to work. Man, she was tough. We scraped up a damn a barber shop linoleum floor in a 50-year-old barber shop together in the middle of the night. We had to do all the work at night because they were open during the day. And this is in a part of Houston. It's called Long Point. It's over off of Spring Branch. And Long Point at night, at least in that time, the early 2000s, was not a good place to be after dark, especially if you were melanin challenged. Yeah, you catch ass whooping or robbing there pretty easily back then. This old gal, man, we worked together. We did work together. I always thought highly of that aspect of it. She's a country girl too, man. She was from Huffman, but her family had a big old place out in Grapeland, Texas. Big old piece of land out there. This Hummer that I'm going to tell y'all the story about. I've told y'all the story about hiding it from my butt. It was her. That's what we didn't know. She was behind on payments when you hit it. She thought somebody come and repoed it. She was freaked out. And it turned out it didn't go. The joke didn't go over well, but that was her. We played the prank on her dad's land. We went and hid the Hummer on Easter morning in a creek, and boy, she was hot. We had to go get it back because she did not take it as a funny joke. Man, I wish I'd started my watch on time because I know where my timer is there, but I don't. I guess we're just gonna roll with it. So one of the biggest cash grabs in the construction business, and Kathy was always tired up with construction stuff. That's the kind of shit she liked to do. She also wanted to be an astronaut, but she's, she's a little healthy to be an astronaut, size wise. They have some pretty strict training and whatnot. I'm not sure, but she was fascinated with all that kind of stuff. But she worked construction like nobody's business, and one of the big cash grabs during that time. Some of you may remember this. May have been happening in other places than Texas, but I remember specifically in Texas was mold remediation. There was a couple of news reports about black mold. Somebody died of some black mold, and all of a sudden, that was the new biggest insurance grab was go in the house and find some mold. Now you need mold remediation. And you got to hire a mold remediation company. And just about every guy and every person I knew that was doing contractor work, some all of a sudden was doing mold remediation work. You had to take a little class, pass a little test for the state, and then it was just it was. I mean, some of it was real, but a lot of it was bullshit, dog and pony show for the insurance company to get a check. And the prices were insane, man. I mean, it wasn't nothing to walk up to a house and quote them 35, 40 grand for mold remediation. And this is in the late 90s. So that was quite a bit more money, you know. And the insurance companies hemorrhaged so much money during this time. And so many house sales got turned upside down in the middle of the sale over mold that insurance agents and realtors in Texas still treat mold like a four-letter word. It's one of the funniest things. I would be out doing an inspection and see some mold in the house and bring it up, and the realtor would be like, "Oh, that's not mold, that's mildew." I'm like, "Well, you can tell yourself whatever you want because you're scared of that word, but it's actually mold, and it's easy." The thing about it is, if you actually know about mold and you learn about it, it's really easy to get rid of. It doesn't require, unless you have like a full infestation, it's not the craziest thing in the world. Here in Houston, we get flooded every couple of years. We've learned how to deal with mold. It's not that big a deal. But the money was rolling in, brother. And I mean, rolling in. Kathy and her lady was making big, big money, man. The money was coming in left and right. And I mean, it was just there to be made. You were just going around quoting all day, and the insurance companies were just paying out like a blasted slot machine. They were just that money was going out the door. It was hurting the insurance companies. Of course, they were all getting together with their lawyers, figure out how to put a stop to it. But there was 3 or 4 good years there where the money was just coming in. I was doing work with them, making some money with them on the side from my normal. That's back when I was doing NDT. So if I had a couple weeks off after a turnaround, I'd go work for them in a heartbeat. Stay good, man. That money was coming in. Boy, her and her gal, they bought them big old house down in Dickinson, nice neighborhood, 2-story house, big yard, all the goodies by one of their friends. And they had a bunch of friends living on the street. We'd all hang out. We used to play basketball in their driveway. And it was good times when I had my little Datsun, my little 280Z. I was fresh off divorce. Or fresh off getting rid of my first wife, and I was not getting rid of, but getting away from. And I'm just going to leave it at I was having a damn good time. I was living fast and loose, and wasn't worried about a whole lot of my actions. One day, I get a text from Kathy. Says, "Man, I bought a Hummer. You got to come down and see it, man." It's me and Joey. I think we drive down there. We were all hanging out. Me and Joey drive down there. Sure enough, boy, they got and our friend Shelly, the one let me borrow her Hyundai, she lived on that street and hung out. Her and the guy she was married to at the time, who was really, really awful human being. And we were all hanging out, man. It was all we drive down there and sitting in the driveway is this brand new 2002 orange H2. It was I mean, you couldn't sneak up on nobody in this thing. Boy, you can see it a mile away. Looked like a giant Easter egg. I gave her shit. I remember giving her shit. I said, "Karen, ain't no Hummer. That's a H2." I didn't even know about all the differences. I just knew that wasn't the same thing as a Hummer. Like, what are you talking about? She, yeah, that's what I need for my business. She'd use it to pull her mold remediation trailer, haul part of her work crew around in it. She bought a little old van too, and they had this little old Chevy van that they would use to go around and do these jobs in. We were having a good old time, boy. We take that Hummer and go down to the beach and all kinds of stuff, man. We had some good times. Took it out to Grapeland. That time we hit out in Grapeland, we were having like a 3 day just playing volleyball and drinking out at her parents' house, right before Easter. And her dad was smoking meat. It was a good time. Then, sometime in 2003, the insurance companies fixed the problem. They got their lawyers together and they fixed it up. And what they did was they changed the way it worked. See, the way it worked prior to that was you went in, you did your mold remediation inspection, and you put your estimate together for all the work he's going to do. Then, of course, you turn that into your person at the insurance you're dealing with, the adjuster at the insurance. And then Allstate, whoever the insurance company was, would cut you a check directly to the contractor to do all that work. Homeowners never put their hands on the money. They just got the work done and went on with their lives. Well, the homeowners, the way they changed it was all of a sudden they started giving, instead of giving the check directly to the contractor, was they would pay out to the homeowner. And then the homeowner had to make a decision whether to take this money and do this mold remediation that everybody on the news was beginning to call bullshit on, or get a new kitchen. So they would shortcut you and go find them another contractor, come in there and do them a kitchen, all that stuff. And most of the time they just spray a little bleach in the attic and go on with their lives and get themselves a new kitchen or a new bathroom. That's back when you could build a new kitchen or bathroom for 30 grand. You'd probably still do a bathroom for that, but boy, you'd be hard pressed to do a kitchen for 30. I can tell you that. Not with modern kitchens and modern labor prices. When money started drying up, they had all these bills. They had this big old house they're trying to keep. And, a couple of vehicles, including this Hummer, including this H2. Kathy, at some point, got so concerned about them repo, and after we played the prank, confided in me that they were behind on payments on the Hummer and tried to talk me into stealing it. Stealing it and getting rid of it because she had good gap insurance and it would cover that and she wouldn't get her credit ruined. And honestly, I felt like I owed her inside. I was feeling guilty because, unbeknownst to her girlfriend had given me a secret BJ in the driveway one night. And I was feeling bad about that. But also, I wasn't feeling bad enough that I wanted to go to jail about their bad financial decisions. So I turned them on to this other dude named Dustin Cox. That's the only real name in this story. Because Dustin Cox could suck his last name. Dustin Cox, COX. He was a dude I knew, was kind of a derelict, a little younger. He said he'd make a deal with her. He was going to do it. I wasn't going to have no part of it. They were just going to do that on their own. Good luck to you. You know. They made a plan. We decided they was going to get rid of it. I was like, man, let's go have some fun. Let's go have one last blowout at the beach. So back then, where we used to like to go, and you'd have to kind of know the geography of Galveston, the Texas coastline, but Galveston's an island, but there's a peninsula there called the Bolivar Peninsula. We just kind of call that whole area Bolivar, and then it goes on into Winnie and all that stuff. And back in the early 2000s, there's a place out there called Crystal Beach, little town right there on the Bolivar. And Bolivar is where we went. We went wade fishing. Bolivar, you can still take your trucks down on the beach. You can have bonfires. You could pretty much do whatever you wanted. It was kind of no man's land there. It's where you could go camping, just have a good time, and still do redneck shit. And nobody gave you too much grief about it, as long as nobody got drunk or you know injured or whatever. The Crystal Beach Sheriff Department would leave us alone. They come down there every once in a while if things got too rowdy, but most of the time, if everybody was of age, they would just quiet the party down and let us go. Now that was before the kids got dumber and started getting killed on four wheelers down there and dying of drinking too much and drowning and shit. And then of course, just like everything else, the law has to come in and get involved and everything gets ruined. And I don't know that you can do anything fun down there anymore. But it used to be a really crazy place. And you would see the wildest shit, man. You would see nudists, you would see just a convoy of 40 trucks going down the beach, all for square body Chevrolets and brick nose Fords and flying flags and drinking and having a good time. The Jeep people would come and there would be these huge Jeep rides up and down the beach. And most of all, you have bonfire, you do yourself a whole bunch of drinking. You run off in, there was a little store in Bolivar, you'd go buy beer, and a little place in Crystal Beach, you could go get whiskey and stuff. And you could have yourself. We were we always went down there pretty stocked, a cooler full, ready to go. A little whiskey, a little tequila, a whole bunch of beer. Have us a good time. So yeah, man. Kathy was all about it. Yeah, let's just have a big blowout. We're just gonna have a good time, man. We go down there, take the old H2 to the beach one last time, have some fun with it. And was a very manicured beach. I mean, it was just there were dunes and it was just a wild beach with snakes and all kind of stuff down there. And I'm telling you, Crystal Beach and Bolivar in the early 2000s was just party central. It was during the summer. You could go down there, you could get anything you wanted, you could have yourself a good ass time, and we did plenty of it. Go down there and wade fish all day. Game warden, I don't think the game warden even knew how to get there. He never showed up. You could just go down there and have yourself a good time. I spent uh, more hours than I care to admit drunkenly wading in that water fishing for specks. Like just a good time. It doesn't seem like there's many places like that left. I worry about that. I think that's why the younger generation gets into more dangerous shit they get into nowadays because there's not places left like that to weed the dummies out. We'd lose one every once in a while, but it's usually somebody making pretty poor decisions. I'm not one of these people that's guilty of a whole lot of survivorship bias, but there was something to culling some of the worst amongst us who did the craziest shit because it did culled some of it kept the rest of us like, ooh, that was fun, but I ain't trying to die. So we did, man. She had a little trailer. And me and her went to every Walmart, and this is back when everybody had wooden pallets, and people just used to throw their pallets out back. And we went to the Home Depots, and of course she had pallets from ordering stuff in the backyard stacked up. We stacked that trailer. Boy, that trailer must have been stacked 15 foot high with pallets, man, full of pallets. Strapped it all down, loaded the cooler up, go down to the beach, have us a good time. I think we took one of the other vehicles. Joey brought maybe his little truck or something. I think he had his little Ranger at the time. That might have been the jetty years. Hard to remember. But the beach was packed enough you could pretty much drive anything around down there. I mean, you can still get some stuff stuck if you got off too close to water, but Lord knows, boy, I got a 3/4 ton Dodge stuck over the axles down there one time. It was one of the wildest things ever. And still somehow managed to drive it out before the tide come in. We took all them pallets down there and set up some. Uh, oh, they had a friend that had a beach house down there. Was going to let us all sleep in the beach house, and they set up. There was a couple tents and stuff, and then we set up all these pallets, and we started us a bonfire. We started drinking, boy. We was having us a good ass time. We was hooting and hollering down there, raising all kind of hell. I don't remember how many of us was there, but it was a good party. I had had some brake fluid that I'd used to start one of the fires, to start the fire. We needed some sort of accelerant. We were having trouble getting them pallets going. And I'd left that brake fluid sitting on the hood of the H2, and the old fire was roaring, boy. I mean, it was no surprise to me that the sheriff eventually showed up. I think I was trying to write my name in the sand with gasoline and light it on fire. When Kathy was sitting over the fire, goes, "What Jesus loves, Jerry Wayne. No reason he should live through what he's trying to do." We were having us a good old time, man. About half lit. Some other people had shown up, and they had some miners with them. And that's where that problem started. Wasn't too much longer, man. Here shows up Crystal Beach sheriff in the SUV, and another one on a four wheeler. They're gonna question everybody. They brought me over to the side to question me. Well, they one of them asked what the brake fluid was for, and I was just being silly. I go, "Oh, that's mine. I'm drinking." And he's like, "All right, you come with me." And he took me off the side and questioned me about what all the hell we were doing. I was like, "We're just having a good time." And then he wanted to know about who the mine. I was like, "I don't know them people. You know, that ain't none of my business. I'm just here with this core group. We're having a good time. That's our fire, and it's our alcohol we was drinking." And I remember I was just lit enough to think I was funny. And he sat me, and I don't remember what the deal was. There was like stuff in his back seat or something, but he told me to go sit in the cop car. And he takes me over his SUV, and he opens the door, tells me to sit right there until he's ready to talk to me again. And he goes off, talks to some other people. Well, I'm sitting there about half lit, and I get bored. And he had his little spotlight, the little, the little, what do you call it, the little pillar spotlight, had that pointed at the party over there when they showed up. Him, the other sheriff, got the people, the miners over the side, and they're interviewing them. And I don't know why it struck me as funny, but all of a sudden I grabbed that thing, I started twisting it between my hands, making that spotlight go back and forth. And I was going, "Look, y'all, look like y'all in one of them old movies." And of course, my friends are looking at me like I'm an idiot, like, "Oh, he's going to jail." And of course, those sheriff deputy runs over there and yanks me out of the truck, locks his truck back up, tells me to stand by the hood. I'm gonna come deal with you in a minute. They go deal with these people. They arrange another vehicle to come pick up these miners, and they're giving and they give the people with the miners PI tickets, public intoxication tickets. They were good about handing them out down there. About $150 ticket back in. They come over to me, and by then I had kind of calmed down, realized I was about to get my ass in some serious trouble. And I was like, "Hey, man, trying, I was just being stupid, man. But we're not gonna get no real trouble here tonight." He said, "Man, he said, you got to seem like, you know, he said, you seem like you got together, but maybe once you lay off drinking, I don't want to have to come. I don't want my next stop to be down here to pick you up." "Yes, sir. Yes, sir." He said, "I'm going to let you off with a warning on the PI. Go back to your friends. Want y'all tone it down a little bit. Let's not add any more pallets to that fire tonight." The enforcer. By then, it was kind of burning down and dying out. And so he leaves. The other sheriff leaves. The other ones that come pick them miners up leave. Of course, And people are all bummed out and trying to figure out what they're going to do about these teenagers. They got in trouble or whatever. One of them's girlfriend or some shit. I didn't hang out with teenagers. I didn't have those kind of problems. They all leave. All the problem people leave, and it's just us, just our core group back down there. And everybody's kind of winding down. It throws a little damper on the party when they hey, you can't burn no more pallets. They had no more bonfire, and none of us were trying to go to jail that night. And everybody was just kind of sitting around the fire drinking. Kathy gets up, she walks over and she gives me the keys to the H2. She goes, "Man, I always wanted to jump it on these dunes, but I didn't want to tear it up." I said, "This is the last night I'm gonna have it. Let's go have some fun." I said, "Boy, hell yeah, I like the way you think, man." She had told me that she made a deal. What they had asked me to do was drive the H2 back to their house up in Dickinson in the morning and leave it there. And I guess homeboy was going to come get it the next day, steal it out of their driveway or some such shit. This before everybody had ring cameras and all that kind of stuff. My car was at their house. I was going to pick up my car and come back. They had another car with them. They had it all planned out. I didn't know much about it, but I had offered. I was like, "Yeah, I'll drive the thing back to your house, whatever." Boy, I wish I'd done how it was all going to go down because I would not have involved myself even that much, man. But young and dumb, making dumb decisions. She hands me them keys. She's like, "Let's go." We get that H2. Actually, she drove it first. She's gonna drive it first. Man, and she was like country, but she's a country ass lesbian, so she like listening to Indigo Girls and then Merle Haggard on the next track. You know what I mean? This guy was a hoot, dude. We're like flying down the beach as H2. She's singing Indigo Girls at the top of her love. The hardest to learn was the least complicated. There's this little dune, man, had like a little 2 foot rise on it. And then there was a low spot on the other side. She said, "I'm gonna hit it." I buckled in. I said, "Let's go, boy." And she floored that old 6 liter, boy. Just a, I don't know if you remember them early 6 liters. You just look at them the wrong way, they get an exhaust leak, crack a manifold. Floor that thing, boy. We hit that dune. Wow! Front of that Hummer collapsed like it was loading up a dirt bike springs, man, and shot that H2 up in the air. We kind of went straight up like a wheelie. Laid on that back, bounce, knocked, felt like it's gonna knock all your teeth out. Well, right off the bat, I knew there was a cracked exhaust man. Tick, 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 tick. He's like, "What that?" Who gives a shit? We're not gonna break this thing. It's a Hummer. I didn't know what I know now. Hell yeah, bro. We jump it a couple more times. The second jump, there was a back rack that held a spare tire on the back of it. The second jump broke that rack, and the spare tire was hanging off and dangling. By the fourth or fifth time we jumped this thing, I guarantee you the suspension was done, bro. There was something wrong with the frame. It wasn't riding right. It was pulling real hard at the right. It was like sagging in different places, and there were crinkles around the doors. Like that old body on those things wasn't worth a shit. I mean, we did. I'm not talking like crazy. We weren't like Dukes of Hazard in this thing. I mean, we're talking like a 1 foot jump, and this thing was coming apart, man. And I did much worse than that. My little Z71 never heard it, but with this H2, I mean, it was, and she's getting more disappointed the faster it comes apart because she's now realized that she spent all this money on a piece of shit. She lets me drive it, and we finished that. I mean, by the time that I was done with my turn driving it up and down the beach and jumping shit with it, the spare tire rack is gone. There's crinkles in the fenders. It's sagging. It's doing that poor old 6 liter sounded so bad. Transmission slipping in second and third gear. This thing's it's on its last leg real quick. I'm talking like 2 hours. 2 hours of fun in that H2, and that thing is garbage. Like, I guarantee you the repair bill would have been more than the vehicle was worth by that point. And I said, man, I woke up early next morning, like 5 or 6 in the morning. I still got the keys H2. I think they gave him a spare key, but he was supposed to break the column apart and make it look like he hot wired it or was gonna hot wire. I don't remember the deal. I just remember having to drive that piece of shit on the ferry, dude. The ferry boat people look at me like, "What the shit happened to this thing?" Parts hanging off of it, and drive it back into Dickens. This thing slipping, and I mean that old 4060 was done, bro. It's making racket, engine's making racket. Sounds like it's got a rod knock by that point. It wouldn't surprise me a damn 6 liter. I've never been a fan of that engine. That 5.3 to me is a superior engine in every way. That 6 liters, unless you put some money in, they're garbage. Get that thing pulled back in the driveway. Get my Datsun. Take the 280Z back down to Galveston. Meet up with everybody. We part ways. Me and Joey go back to our lives on the other side of town, working. Figure everything's done. Kathy goes back, files the insurance. They get home and the Hummer's gone. Then they find the Hummer. They find the H2 not very far from there, off in the ship channel. I guess old boy decided he couldn't get it very far in its current condition. He just took it over the ship channel and sunk it. And back in those days, back in Pasadena, there was all kind of ways to get off in the channel if you wanted to, if you knew the right haunts and the right places to go. And he found some little place, went over there and dumped it in the water. Well, lo and behold, she didn't think about the fact she was behind on payments. Of course, the insurance company got a little suspicious. You know, you'll never meet a better investigator than you will than the people that work on insurance fraud. These people, this is their life. This is what they do. This is how they make their money. They're not like cops. They are unmerciful. And this insurance investigator is just sure that this is some kind of fraud. They've had this car stolen. You know, it's one of the oldest tricks in the book. It's not a new trick by any stretch of imagination. I remember I used to hear stories when I was a kid. My papa would tell me stories about how when the 327s come out, everybody had a 283 wanted a 327. They had old pig or old vehicle on warranty or something. They'd go out there and put a brick on the pedal of that 283. Damn 283 run out of gas before it blew the motor. They're trying to blow them 283s up so they could swap out to a 327, under warranty and such. Yeah, those tricks have been around for long. As long as the automotive business and insurance have been around, that stuff's been around. And don't get me wrong, I ain't shedding a tear for the insurance companies. I could give a damn. I think they're all crooks, but you know, I'm also at a point of wisdom and maturity in my life where I don't want to be involved with any of that kind of stuff. But when I was younger, I wasn't quite that smart. That old insurance investigator come after him tooth and nail, boy. Want to know everybody involved. I ended up having to talk to him because I'm the one that left it because I had to tell him that I drove it back to get my car. Well, not because I had to tell them, because they decided they let that slip, and then I had to answer all these questions about what I did with the keys, and I was like, man, why the hell did I get drug into this? And then the Houston detective with the auto theft division gets involved, and I had to go answer questions to this dude. And I ain't trying to be involved in none of this shit. I'm like, man, I don't know nothing about nothing. I drove that car back, get my car, dropped it off, blah, blah, blah. People saw me on the ferry. I didn't steal this car. I don't have nothing to do with it. It's my friend's vehicle. I just drove it to their house, dropped it off, got my car. Deny, deny, deny. Yeah, I don't have nothing to do with this because I didn't. It wasn't. I wasn't part of that. What they had decided to do. I decided distant to pull myself out of that. But they finally get around to where they've decided that she's telling the truth, and this car just got stolen. And the insurance company's about to cut her a check. And she had this crew of Mexican guys that all worked for one guy working for her that drove that little van around and did jobs. And she couldn't afford to pay them until she got that money, got that check back from the insurance company. It was going to cover the payoff plus put, they had made some big double payments on stuff. They was going to put some money back in their pocket too. They, But that time old Dustin pops back into the picture right when they're about ready to get that check. And Dustin starts threatening them. I hear secondhand, he starts threatening them that he's going to snitch. Which, why he would do that, I don't know. It's stupid. You're going to screw yourself. But he was going to anonymously snitch, get the investigation open back up, all this stuff, and, screw up their plan unless they gave him some money too. I don't know what her and his agreement was. It wasn't none of my business. But I thought that was pretty chicken shit. You do dirty shit with people, you better have some sort of code about you, because turning on people like that, boy, it come back to get you, and it come back to get old Dustin, buddy. She just basically goes, this is Mexican crew. They're from Long Point. They're from Spring Branch, bro. They're not to be trifled with. These dudes will do some shit, man. You know what I mean? You don't mess with their money. She basically tells them, "Hey, I'm waiting to pay you, and I'm gonna get your money as soon as I can." But this guy, y'all met him. I think he ended up doing some work for him. They had all known him too. And she was like, "This guy's threatening to get me in a bunch of trouble, and they're gonna take all my money away if this happens, and I ain't gonna be able to pay you guys. And I don't know what to do. I'm in a rock and a hard place." And he goes, "Don't you worry, Miss Kathy. We'll take care of it." Well, they go find him somewhere and scare the shit out of him, like enough that he leaves Texas. I don't know where he is now, but he left Texas and did not come back to that area, hang around. They run his ass off. She gets a check, gets everybody paid up, and I think they managed to. I don't remember what all. I think they ended up losing the house and all kinds of stuff. We all kind of went our separate ways at some point, because everybody's lives are, in that era of your life is changing, and they had got me involved in some shit I didn't feel comfortable with, and I didn't want to be involved with. I was feeling weird about the whole complicated situation, honestly, and decided to remove myself from it. Started kind of focusing on my career. It's right about the time I bought that Ford, where nose, and I was making better money at work, and I was trying to focus on some shit I was going to do next. Wasn't too long after that I found comedy. I never seen her again. I hope old Kathy, I hope she's out there living her best life, having a good time, because I bear her no ill will or anything like that. It was all just a very complicated situation, and friendships ended at some point, as they do when you're that age, and there's all those complications. You know what I mean? Bear no ill will. But we did have one good ass time tearing the shit out of H2 one night. And honestly, I'm still, now that I've read and researched about how the thing was built, I am way less disappointed how quick it broke. I'm surprised at how long it lasted. Now, that is one of the worst things I've ever heard of in my life. The way that thing was concocted, very little to do with an actual Hummer, for sure. Now they're trying to revive it. Yeah, that the Hummer brand was so screwed up that when GM filed bankruptcy, there were Chinese investors that wanted to buy Hummer, and the United States got in the way of that one too. It was like, no, no, we can't. AM General still. The GM bought AM General at some point, and then they were going to have to sell AM General off, and they were filing bankruptcy, and they ended up keeping it. They got rid of it. It's not a like a subsidiary anymore. It's a model name now, but they still own the Hummer model. They just released those GMC What was that, like a couple years ago? They released those GMC all electric Hummers, which I think have about as much to do with a Hummer as a H2 probably. I don't know very much about them. They don't. They don't particularly interest me. I like some electric vehicles, but I like the small ones and the race cars, and I like the electric dirt bikes and stuff people are coming up with because I think that's where we're going to really see EV thrive is in those areas. You know, but I've seen some cool stuff done with EVs. My dad worked at Komatsu Mining for a while up in Longview, and they have these big old dump truck mine trucks, these gigantic trucks that are. It's kind of crazy. They have what was like 1,200 horsepower electric motors on all four wheels, and then all that is the batteries and stuff are powered by a little bitty diesel generator about the size of a Honda generator, and just as quiet, you know, and use just as little fuel. Sit there and generate electricity for those electric motors, and those things just working in the mines, hauling loads. There's different applications for it. I don't know why we'll see it go in our lifetime. But the pickup, electric pickup trucks just don't really, they just don't do it for me. There ain't no part of any of them that interests me. Just doesn't, you know. I almost would just rather see the pickup industry come to an end than go to that, you know, because it's just, I don't know. I think what it's really going to turn into is a bunch of four-door Mavericks before we're all done. But that's a whole rant for another time. I'm very saddened at some of the state of the automotive future. It seems like. Glad I got to live in the time I did and enjoy some of the things I did growing up, especially Crystal Beach and off-road trucks and raising hell. And makes me a little sad people don't get to do as much of that stuff anymore. But I can see why they had to put their fist down, put a stop to it. Let's uh let's hop off in here and do some testimonials, if you will. We'll wrap that up right there. Uh, I am prepared this week. I am prepared, Mr. Prep. Mr. Prep. Testimonials. These are some comments from last week's episode, which I don't remember what that was about. What was last week's episode about? Damn if I cannot remember. Oh, Mercury Cougar. Oh, 6'7" Mercury Cougar. That was my time on repo and stuff. I was talking a little bit about bicycles and stuff at the end. I was trying to figure out this first comment. I couldn't remember. At Mike Fleisner, old buddy Mike Fleisner. Oh, I was talking about how I hate bicycle helmets. He said, get a BMX helmet. I have a BMX helmet. I have a really cool orange BMX helmet, but I have such a big head that it looks like a giant pumpkin on my head. So I don't know, man. But I saw some helmets by a company called Giro, I think, that look pretty cool. So I think I'm going to look into them. They're a little pricey. Might check one of those out. But appreciate the recommendation. Maybe I'll check out some of the better. That was a cheap. I think I bought that BMX helmet from Target or something. Or no, I bought it from a bike shop, but might be something better out there. It fits me better. At William Rudney, 8580, 2 days ago. Jared, give me a poke from well, that's a weird phrase. From a small town in central Illinois, brother. Your truck astrology brings me great joy and turn my whole day around. I love your content, brother. It takes me back to when I was a young lad. Your comedy is spot on. Your overall message through each special I see of yours is down to earth and normal kind of guy. Pay to have a drink with you and hear what you have to say. Keep it real, brother. Been a fan for a while now and never plan to leave. Thank you, Jared. Thank you, Will, for checking out. Nobody has to pay to have a drink with me. You just got to catch me in the right place at the right time. Uh, but I appreciate that. Thanks for listening and watching. Thanks for watching the comedy special. And I I tend to think of myself as a kind of normal guy. It's funny is I didn't think of myself as such a normal guy until I started this podcast, and then I started getting the feedback from you guys about my stories and realized that we've all just lived these parallel lives, and so many of us are alike and like the same. It's kind of wild to me, but now thanks to y'all, I feel more like a normal guy than anything. I always felt a little weird, like an odd man out. And these days, I think maybe I am the normal. Thanks to y'all. Uh, Astounding results. If you remember the old, not too old TV show Pimp My Ride, they had a Mercury Cougar in it. The crew actually did a tasteful restoration of it. Besides the gadgets, great paint job. It's actually uploaded on the tube. If you search, it'll be under MTV's French channel. Il ne revient pas de sa nouvelle voiture. Boy, that is a mouthful. I don't know about them French. That's a weird language. Good on them, though. Man, I do remember I almost got an opportunity to be on Pit My Ride as a cast member. I auditioned and went through all the stuff, and there was a point in time where it looked like maybe I was going to get me a little role. And it was when a bunch of stuff was happening for me in the early 2000s, and uh, but I never see anything they did that was tasteful. That I'll have to go look for that one because I missed the Mercury. I missed the tasteful Mercury Cougar because boy, everything else they did, I just thought that was some tacky shit, you know. And most of the time they didn't fix the car. The car still had all its mechanical problems, you know. So there's story after story of people had them cars done and tried to sell them and get out from under them, and it was a mess, man. So I had to go look for the Mercury Cougar. That would certainly be something to see. All right, man. Today's story, we had a little action, some loss, all that stuff. I always think about that. That wasn't the first time I went through that. I went through that in the oil industry and stuff too. What them people went through in the mold remediation industry. It's probably one of the reasons my wife often chides me is I live very modestly. I don't need the newest and the best stuff. Um, I usually buy my iPhones used or refurbished, program them myself. I just don't. When I buy cameras and stuff, I look for it on a deal. I do a lot of research. I don't drive new cars. I don't want new car notes. I don't want to be. I hate being in debt. That's most of what I spend my money on is making sure I have little to no debt left and trying to fix my credit because I've been to the top too many times and had the rug pulled out from under me. You know, like just like this social media stuff. I make pretty decent money from social media, and that's a great thing. I'm blessed, and I make decent money from comedy. But the social media stuff's just rented land. Facebook owns that. YouTube owns that. If they decide to ban me or whatever, I'd just be screwed. Wouldn't it? It's rented land. I'm not in any control there. I'm in control of my content, what I produce and create, and I'll still own all my content. And if something like that ever happens, I'll probably just move to Patreon or some sort of pay site. And granted, I'll lose a lot of followers, but I think the real ones, the diehards, would stick with me and still want to watch my stuff. But we don't know, just like TikTok almost disappeared, and I make a little money on TikTok, but I didn't get all freaked out about it because I was like, comes and goes, baby. There's job security doesn't exist. I think job security is a false ego mentality we convince ourselves of just so we can have some peace. But there's no job security. Not, and I'm not talking about the current economic or political state. I'm just saying, period. It's the way it's always been. Kind of way capitalism works. Things go away, disappear. For years, I did a special type of foundation pier. People don't even pay to do anymore. People rather get foam shot up under their house for cheaper than that, or get some bullshit little press piers and stuff, and selling them jobs from big foundation jobs. That's a hard racket now, man. Ain't too many guys left doing it. There's always people innovating and finding new ways to do things. And even if there's not, you'll always have somebody go, "Well, I'm a mason or I'm a carpenter." There's people always going to need masons and carpenters. You ain't gonna get no AI to do that. You ain't gonna get, that's one's going to bite the truck drivers in the ass. It's real surprising me when truck drivers stump so hard for certain people because I'm like, they're trying to get rid of you, bro. They're trying to replace you with a computer. and they will at some point. It's coming. Like, I mean, there'll be certain types of truck drivers that probably still have a little security for a little while, but that shit's coming. They're figuring out how to do stuff like that. Writers, copywriters and stuff. They you used to be able to make a good living writing copy, but I think AI is not too far around the corner from taking over a lot of writing copy. It's not just blue collar people it's going to affect. I mean, it's affecting really, honestly, middle management and a lot of these kind of people even more than that. But job security, it's a myth. Even if you're something that requires a human to do and a human with a skill set to do, it's still a myth to tell you. So you can be like, well, I'm a roofer. People ain't going to stop needing roofs. Yeah, but you're one job accident or a car accident away from not being able to do that. You can be the best at what you do and have a great following and stuff and get yourself in a car wreck, not be able to go out there and roof anymore, not be able to. Yeah, we're all just one little pile of cards away from having to figure out something else to do with our lives, and me included. I don't take it for granted. I don't, I don't have much peace of mind because I don't believe in job security. I'm always trying to figure out the next thing, and that's why I do different videos and why I make different stuff. And they promise me shit all the time. I thought I was going to spend about half this year doing racing events that pay pretty decently for World of Outlaws, and a lot of that fell through, not because of me or anything I did wrong, but structural changes, upper management changes and stuff at their company, and they had some changes with sponsors and stuff, and it threw their shit in a whack, and they're trying to deal with that. And that's a bigger problem than paying somebody to come promote races and stuff. And I get it. I'm not even mad at them. We're still gonna do some work together. I love those guys. I love being a part of that organization, but it's not gonna be on the scale of what I hoped it was gonna be this year. And lucky for me, I'm not dumb enough to, you know, count eggs before they hatch. I did leave a lot of spots open for it that I'm now got to fill in, but it's the way it goes. You know, this is all rented land. It's all the job security's a myth. Don't let yourself fall into that, believing that's something real. We're all just one pile of cards away from having to figure something else out. People, like I said, people promise me shit all the time, and I'm one of those people these days. I don't really count anything as real until I got a check in my hand. So I deposit a check in my bank account, a deposit check or something. Nothing's real to me. I've got projects I'm working on. I'm trying to do some acting. I'm trying to do all kind of different stuff, but none of it's real until a check's in the bank. And even then, it's just real for that part that I got paid for. And then it's a transactional way to have to go through business, but get on top and get the rug yanked out from you enough times, you get that way. I'm rooting for you, but be smart. Be smart about the things you're counting on. Be smart about the plans you're making. And I'm a big promoter of live within your means. Don't go out and buy you a new truck because your neighbor got a new truck. Don't don't go out and spend 30 grand on some resto mod that you really can't afford just because of nostalgia. Be happy. The thing about truck astrology is I try to make a point to make fun of everything so you guys understand none of this shit matters. It's just what you like. Just have what you like, you know. But stay within what you can do. Me myself, I do all like I said. I sold a truck this week. I bought a truck for a reasonable price, did some repairs on it, sold it for a better price, made a little money on it, a little short term money. That's all. No, I didn't get rich, but I made $1,000 on the deal. A little bit of my labor, a little bit of my time, but that's something I still know how to do. So I don't look gift horses in the mouth. I focus on those things. I'm rooting for you. Be smart about it. I want to see every one of you succeed, but don't, man. If things are going good, don't go crazy. Make Keep yourself a stash. Keep yourself a way out because things can go wrong at any time. You need a way to get out the door and get on with your life and on to the next thing. And that's what I'd like to see for all of you. Those of us get hurt, we get illnesses. It's all kind of stuff, man. People get cancer, it turns their whole life upside down. Not just the illness and the physicality of it, but the financial side of it. And that's the part people don't talk about enough. It costs a lot of money to get sick in the United States. It costs a lot of money to have something wrong with you. I will tell y'all, on a brighter note, I went and had a physical yesterday and had blood work done. And it's the happiest time I've ever had in a doctor's office because she was so pleased with how much my physicality has changed in a year. And she was so pleased with how much my health has changed in a year. I stopped smoking in 2024, but for years, I had doctors tell me I had COPD or the beginnings of COPD. And I've always had this kind of wheezing in my lungs. And that didn't keep me from smoking, but I did quit smoking back in 24. And she checked my lungs are just clear as you want them to be, baby. I got breath for days, man. Lungs sounded good. My heart sounds good. My blood pressure is better than it's ever been in my life, like including my teen years. I'm running 116 over 78. She's like, that's like 1 point away from ideal blood pressure, especially from a big boy like me. So the changes I have been putting into my life are paying off. They're working. My liver numbers are down. Everything is better. So I'm excited about that. That's the best time I ever had a doctor's appointment in my life. And some of you that follow me on Facebook know I already had one crazy. I was supposed to go to the dermatologist, I thought Wednesday, and I stayed up all night panicking. I've got a spot on my ear here that's like black and misshapen, and a buddy of mine had to have a bunch of his ear cut out. And it's been worrying me, and it just popped up like a year or so ago. And my wife, there's a spot on my shoulder my wife was on me about, and I tried cutting it off with fingernail clippers, and she got mad at me about that. And then it came back, and remember my dad had to have some of these things. So I had myself anxiety up about this dermatologist appointment, and didn't sleep worth the shit. Got up the next day, went to dermatology place early in the morning, only to find out that I was a week early for my appointments, not till this coming Wednesday. I got myself all worked up for nothing. And I took it to the gym and I took it out at the gym, but taught me a valuable lesson. And honestly, after seeing my regular MD, and she looked at the thing on my ear, and she's like, "Yeah, you definitely want to get that checked out. They'll probably get rid of it, freeze it off, or something." She said, "But definitely get that checked out. Don't screw around with this." And I was like, "All right." But then she also told me, she goes, "It's not the '80s and '90s. Everybody gets skin cancer. The survival rate for skin cancer, all that kind of stuff's really good now. It's not like it used to be when it first popped up and people were struggling with it. So she made me feel a lot less anxious about it. And, a couple of you guys talked to me on Facebook. We're like, hey, it's better to know. And me and my brother talked about this last night for a while. It is better to know. It is better to know. I used to think it's better not to know, but that's a dumb way to go through life. It's better to know. If you know what the problem is, you can start coming up with a solution or figure out what you're going to do about it. And not knowing what the problem is just letting something get worse and worse and not doing nothing about it. And I'm on a goal to kind of get myself in some better shape. My next stop is the dentist. And my teeth are jacked up, bro. They are jacked up. I'm afraid that dentist's going to look in my mouth and go, no. That's my teeth are jacked up. I ain't looking forward to the pain that I associate with dental work. Root for you guys. Be smart. The ones who are obviously against you are not your problem. The people, the outward haters, the people who don't like what you do and don't like anything about who you are, or whatever. Those people aren't even your problem, because the best thing about them is they're transparent about it, and And there's people in comedy that I don't like. They don't like me. We have open issues with one another. There's certain people I just piss on as soon as set on fire. I mean, I wouldn't piss on them, put out the fire, I believe is the statement. But those people aren't the problem. It's the ones you got. Look, I got people on both sides of the fence that would like to cancel me for different shit I say. I got angry left people over here that don't think I'm enough or whatever, and angry MAGA people over here that have problems with me because what I don't give a shit, personally. But it's not the ones who are obviously against you who are the problem. Those are not the people that cause you problem. It's the ones who pretend they're on your side. It's the ones that tell you everything you want to hear, and you got to watch out for those. Those are the ones that can get you. Those are the ones you got to be wary of. Be smart. I'm rooting for you. There's room at the table for everybody. I want to see you at the table. Tell you guys every week, I 100% mean it. I hope your week's going good. I thank you so much for sharing your time with me on a Sunday, and I look forward to seeing you next Sunday. I really do. This has become one of my favorite parts of the week. I'm going to go out there and cook some meat and enjoy my freshly mowed lawn. Hope y'all are having a good weekend yourselves. Remember, I'm JW. I love you. We'll finish off the water. Ooh, it's a little warm out here. Oh, it's dropped some though. Look at that. We're almost back down to 80.